Well, welcome again to Culture Couch Live. So, boys, welcome. Jez, how are you?
Rizzy, how are you?
Good, thanks, mate.
And now, just a quick summary about your hat, Jez, because you've got a good story, I think, about the hat, have you? Because I actually like the hat.
Yeah, this is Leeds Rhinos. Leeds Rhinos are the rugby league team we're working with in the UK, in the Super League. And last night they were victorious in the Challenge Cup. So they've gone into the semis. And they were victorious with 4 people out with COVID. So it was a fantastic win by the boys. Absolutely smashed the other team, and well done. And looking forward to catching up during the week.
Oh, well done, boys. That's good. System versus talent. We'll always back system ahead of talent, boys, won't we? Now, actually, that's not a bad lead-in, because this week's 2 questions, there's a bit of a footy flavour to this week's 2 questions. So we've got Tom Boyd, who's a really good young fella, Tommy Boyd. I love Tom Boyd. He's obviously the ex-Giants and Bulldogs, so he's written a question in, boys. So his question is, what's the biggest challenge, opportunity? Actually, a bit of a shout out to me too, because I've now got it on the chat on the right-hand side as well. So I've learned you can chat, so a bit of a shout out to me. Unless that's a little bit arrogant for you, but that's okay. What is the biggest challenge opportunity with employing millennials? What do you think is the best way to maximise their output? So, Jez, maybe from a footy point of view, Jez, because you were, I suppose, working with the Cats back in 2007, and I probably myself, 2003, when I started coaching Sydney, there's a real changeover from the millennials. Obviously, we get most of them coming into the footy club. So maybe I'll start with you.
Yeah, there's been a massive change, hasn't there? And I think it's been, you certainly couldn't do the same things now that we did in 2007, because the guys the young guys coming through are different, and rightfully so. I think it puts a lot more pressure on us to be better leaders, that we can't just, do as I say, not as I do. We have to actually empower them. We have to give them a say in what they want. It makes us understand each individual better. Cuts a little bit to the profiling piece that we've spoken about. But the young guys, they want to understand what their role is. They want to have meaning to what they're doing. And this isn't just in sport. This is corporately as well. And I think as leaders, if we can create an empowerment model that allows them to have some sort of say in their team, and allows them to have some sort of meaningful contribution, then I think it goes a long way to engaging them and making sure that they come to work happy, because at the end of the day, we need a workforce engaged and happy, really.
And how much has it changed you as a leader? I mean, as someone as a CEO of a couple of companies over the past X amount of years, how has it forced you to change as a leader from the points that Jez brought up then?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I think the millennials are probably the most misunderstood age group out there, because of, what is it that motivates them and what are they actually looking for? But specifically, my management style over this time period has changed quite significantly, because of basically including people to make decisions rather than making decisions myself. And that sort of evolution of getting others to collectively decide on what we're going to do rather than me doing so means that the millennials feel more engaged, more included, and you're generally more happy at the workplace.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, I'll get you to touch on the positives, but it's also what I find, I think what the boys are saying is absolutely right. They really want a purpose, which is really important. It's really cool for what we do. They really want to be engaged in the process, which is really cool. They probably, not all of them, a lot of them don't really worry too much about the money, but potentially the downside is there is a little bit of a gap between hard work and success and climbing up the corporate ladder. I think that's probably, so I want you to touch on, maybe wrap up what the boys said from a positive point of view, but there is that potential danger that they do sometimes get a little bit ahead of themselves.
Yeah, so a couple of things there. There's Everyone talks about that entitlement piece. They step into an organization and feel like they should be able to make pretty heavy-weighted decisions quite quickly without doing their time or their apprenticeship, as many might refer to. So that's sort of the gap between the baby boomers and the millennials, and that apprenticeship piece. And then the hard work piece. Sometimes leaders will equate hours of time to hard work. Whereas we know with the millennials, they need purpose and meaning, as Jason was sort of touched on. But the advantage of millennials is they're very tech savvy. So they're often very quick at streamlining things. So they can actually get quite a lot done in quite a short amount of time in comparison to what used to have to be done. So the opportunity for the modern day leader is to leverage the fact that they try to find the fastest way to do the job. So if you get it right, they can actually accelerate your growth quite quickly. Get them attached to a good purpose and meaning, and then give them some autonomy so they can master their role, and they'll find a quicker way to do things due to the technology advancements. And that hard work concept doesn't necessarily mean time. It's more around efficiency. So that's a real competitive advantage and opportunity, I reckon, for modern day leaders for sure.
Yeah, I think overall, go on, Jez.
Oh, I was going to say, I agree with the point that sometimes that they're maligned, the millennial group, and I think it's really unfair. I think that I think back to my grandfather, and he probably didn't understand me so well, and even my dad, and then so every generation sort of brings a new challenge with it for the preceding generation. So I think it's really important that at the end of the day, when we always come back to how do we talk about it. So it comes back to communication. Sit down, have a chat, ask, what do you want? What do you need in order for me to get the best out of you as an individual or as a team? And I think if we keep coming back to that, then we're not going to be too far wrong. And I agree with Em around the tech. Like, as you guys know, I've got an esports team. So working with the guys in esports and gaming, it's just fascinating. Like, it blows my mind. Some of the stuff, I just have no idea what they're doing, what they're talking about, but they are just unbelievably good at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think one of the other tips that I give people is, and we did a session at Melbourne with our psychologist, and he ran through the millennials and the psychology of millennials. So I think as a leader out there, just understand them better, because there's far more positives than negatives.
Absolutely.
And I think Jez, you hit the nail on the head. Sometimes I've got two boys, 24 and 26. Sometimes that generation is a little bit misunderstood and maligned, but get to know them really well, understand them really well. They love purpose, they love values, they love behaviours, they love empowerment, and they get involved. They certainly get really involved in our system, don't they, boys?
Yeah. And the one thing they don't do, Ruzi, I'll guarantee, is they don't have a pencil and a rubber handwritten diary.
Look at that.
I'll guarantee.
I've got the pencil. I actually had to sharpen the pencil the other day. Look at that. All right. I can assure you I'm not tech savvy. That's why I'm wrapped with it. Now, let me just, if I can go over to the chat for a minute here, Merv.
Yep.
All right. Just my IT. I've sharpened the pencil.
Showing millennial behaviours.
And I'm going to go with another guy, and I'm tipping this guy that's asked this question has a pencil and a diary as well.
I reckon he does too.
Laurie Serafini. He was the fullback when I arrived at Fitzroy. So, Sarah, I'm sure you've got a pencil and a diary. Now, can you share 3 to 4 tips on how leaders can display more communication, or how they can demonstrate better communication to the staff in the office? And so the next part's probably really prevalent, because we do have these sort of probably false, not so much false conversation, but his point is more than how was your weekend, nice at Collingwood. Well, he's got nice that Collingwood lost, but I might say nice that Collingwood won, or however you want to do that. Don't upset the Collingwood supporters. But what does the boss do to really communicate as a true 220 leader? I might go to you, because from memory, I think Emil gave you a task actually when he first started meeting with you.
That's right. Yeah.
One to connect. He wanted you to connect with at least 1 or 2 of your staff members. So maybe talk through that story.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty funny. I'm a high task-orientated, outcome-driven person. So, all I'm thinking about every second and every moment of every day is what I need to do, how I need to get it done, and how so I can move on to the next thing. And that means that I'm not focused in any way, shape, or form on relationships. And I think my biggest transformation from my previous company, Market One, to MediFarm Labs is my real focus now on relationship building. So Neil gave me a task where I was really poor at it, to actually go in and communicate with people, because I would go straight into the office, sit down on the desk and just start working. And that's because I needed to get stuff done, and that gave me pleasure because I was completing the task, but people just didn't understand me, to the extent that when I'd call someone into a meeting room, because I never talked to them, as Emil gave me the task to bring them in and have a chat, I thought they were getting the sack. So obviously the big factor around sort of engagement is just, I think it's just opening up, or first off, building trust to have conversations. And with this new company, my biggest thing is I'm vulnerable. I show my vulnerability, I show my weaknesses, warts and all. And because I have that trust, I can get into deep conversations quite quickly with people about what's happening at home, what they're up to, checking in their mental health. And I have dollars in the trust bank to the extent that, every individual in the company feels like a family member. And that's just taken a lot of years of work and effort, but it's about being able to expose myself and things that I'm doing to the team where, others might feel anxious about saying the stuff that I say to people. It doesn't bother me. We all have battle scars, and we all should be showing them, because it's a strong trait to have.
Yeah, great answer. I love that story. It's interesting. I can only picture those guys' faces as you brought him in the office. I
just want to touch on that. There was an open plan environment, and the idea was just to go in, meet with that person, the HR, your HR staff member at the time would say connect with John today. Here's what he's been doing well in the company. And then just go down and sit down, have a good open chat, and then go to your desk. But would then go, hey, John, can you come into the boardroom? Which kind of defeated the purpose of the open plan and showing that, because the feedback from the team was, I remember this very clearly, the feedback from the team, the real talk was, can you please say hello in the morning? And because he was just so, get down, get the work done and get out. For a 6'4" bloke, he was like the Phantom. People didn't even know he was in the office. And so poor John and Judy, we would go to the office and in the boardroom and think, oh God, what's going on? So we changed it and it ended up working out really quite well in the end.
So just sum up communication. I mean, because obviously the words that get thrown around are empowerment and culture and leadership and all those. So maybe for Lorenzo, and the people listening, what is communication? Because it's a great point about, well done on the Rhinos or well done on Melbourne on the weekend. How would you sum up communication?
Well, I think what Emil and Warren did then was really important, and you would have done the same at Sydney and Melbourne, Ruzi, was they set up structures and processes that allowed the communication to occur. So if you think it's just going to happen without really thinking through how am I going to interact with my people? Well, you're wrong. It just won't happen. So the first thing is set those structures up. Second thing is be really conscious of your power. Like if you're a senior executive, you're a coach, like understand that not everybody will feel comfortable coming to you. And particularly, some of the quieter people in the organization, the more introverted people. So understand that you might have to reach out. The power sits with you. So really, really conscious of that. Then make sure that you stick to the ratio of sort of 4-1. We always talk about 4-1, 4 positive to 1 negative. Find ways to catch people doing it well, as Emil talks about all the time. So if you are having meaningful conversations where we're catching people doing it well, it will reward that behavior and they'll keep doing it. So I think there's some really, and vary it up, it's not just one-on-ones, it's small groups, it's big teams. So work through how am I going to get the best out of my team? I don't know, Ruzi, if that resonates with what you found at Sydney and Melbourne.
Yeah, 100%. I think the great thing about a footy club is the routine. And I think that the difference between a footy club and sometimes corporate world, we think it's just going to happen. Oh, look, if we're in the office together and I wanted to pass people, hopefully I can build a relationship. Whereas footy clubs are so structured, to your point, Murph, you make it happen because you come out of a meeting, you have another meeting, but there's purpose behind all your meetings. There's purpose behind all your discussions. And Em, I think it leads on to what you talk about a lot and what we talk about is little and often conversations.
Yeah.
Footy clubs have little and often conversations. So maybe expand on that philosophy a little bit, Bill, as well.
Yeah, it's really important because, especially now, with psychological safety and emotional pain and physical pain to the brain being the same, our job as leaders is to consistently keep checking in. And some research I was looking at the other day shows that the brain looks for danger 5 times per second due to our biological makeup from our ancestry. And that's crazy to think that. So that little and often piece, which is the whole point around was the one to connect, we called it, just systematized and took the chance out of disconnection, which is a high threat right now, particularly as we say, we're remote, but we don't have to be isolated. And so the little and often is really good. I've been getting into a habit of just going on my morning walk or evening walk and just having a little list in my notes of the people who I'm really close with and I care about and love, and just flicking a, how are you, mate? And that just, if they're available, we engage in a conversation. And if they don't engage, then we catch it somewhere else. But just the habit of sort of systematizing and putting it into a ritual and routine. And that the recommendation we give is attach the routine to an existing routine. So if you go for your morning walk, which I often do or whatever, my alarm will go off and say, connect with a mate sort of thing. So that's a really easy way because you've got these beautiful, the phone's an amazing device. But the other thing that came up for me in relation to, I think it's Giancarlo is the bloke who asked the question, is Jez's point's really good too, conscious of power, that's unbelievable, is shared decisions and direction. People want to know why we made decisions and where we're going. And that, again, that creates that safety piece. I've made this decision based on this value and we're going in this direction. Okay, that makes me feel pretty good. Now I can go on my day and work, and that might give you 3 days of safety and then do it again and do it again. But yeah, little and often share decisions and direction and use an alarm to systematize and take the chance out of it.
Systematize. I think just to sum it up, Ruzi, I think the one thing that I really think as leaders we can often do better at is understanding the difference between the introverted and the extroverted people in our team.
Yeah,
and creating space for the introverted people to speak. The world is built in essence for extroverts in terms of whoever's the noisiest speaks first. So I think just reminding ourselves that are we creating enough space for the people who are quieter on our team?
Yeah. Asking questions. I hear you boys talk about that all the time. I think it's the new way of leading, isn't it? I mean, when I first started playing football, and I'm sure when you guys were playing footy, and Murph, when you were, starting to work in the corporate world and also working with probably early days of the club, it was a lot of top down. It was a lot of do this, do this, do this, do this. There's no doubt the successful leaders now ask questions, and that gives those introverted people an opportunity to speak up. So well done, boys. Fantastic.
Yeah, that was a great session.
Information, great session. Thanks to Tom and Giancarlo is effectively Lorenzo. So I've unearthed his true identity. So thanks to Lorenzo and Tom. And we're a big fan of millennials. I think, as you guys have said, they love what we do and they love to be empowered. And they're great people inside your organisation. And for Lorenzo, communication. It really is the essence of what we try and do. It's the essence about being a great leader. And if you can't communicate, you really can't be a great leader. So thanks, boys. Have a great weekend. Thanks for the Culture Couch, and we'll see you next time.